Thank you all for joining our webinar, Discover a Smarter Workspace, Gemini for Google Workspace. Before we begin, I'd like to take care of a few housekeeping items. Today's event will be recorded, and we will be sharing it out after the event. We should also have time for a live Q&A at the end, so please feel free to drop your questions into the activities section of the Meet on the bottom right of the screen, right corner of your screen. And to kick things off, let's get to know our presenters and speakers. I'm Kelsey, your host. I'm an account manager here at Wursta. I've been here for 2 years with experience in the client services division. I love connecting with the diverse businesses, helping them achieve their unique goals using Google Cloud technology. I personally am really excited for this event, as I know many of my clients are looking forward to seeing and adopting Gemini's capabilities and they're within the workspace. We're joined by Grace Hutchison, a Google Workspace Customer Engineer. Grace, would you like to go ahead and tell us about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Kelsey. Hey, everyone. I'm Grace Hutchison. I've been at Google for about 2 years now, originally joined on the Google Cloud side of the business before switching over to Google Workspace, where I now reside as a customer engineer that specializes in Gemini for Workspace. And I'm really excited to be here today to help showcase its value.
Awesome. Thank you, Grace. We are also joined by Burchanowski, a Wursta co-founder and head of our Google Workspace AI Solutions practice. Brian, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thanks, Kelsey. Also super excited to be here. I've been doing Google Workspace deployments and migrations for over a decade now. Very excited about all of the functionality that Gemini brings to the table, and we'll be happy to show you more about it as we go through this presentation.
Alrighty, so here's the agenda for the day. We're excited to start things off with Grace, who's going to cover the new era of work, and then Brian will show us a live demo of Gemini in action. He'll also be covering securing your data. Afterwards, he'll dig into the pricing a little bit and highlight the work transformation packages that Wursta has created to help organizations assess and implement Gemini successfully. And with that, I will hand it off to Grace.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into how generative AI, like Gemini, is transforming the way we work, starting with what is generative AI. So in a nutshell, generative AI is a type of artificial intelligence that helps humans create content such as text and images. It really represents a new era of work, and the world is rapidly shifting to embrace it as it transforms how people do things, boosting creativity, productivity, and collaboration like never before. And business leaders across industries and around the world recognize that they need to quickly develop plans for adopting generative AI in a safe, secure, and scalable manner, and that organizations that don't adopt generative AI are going to leapfrog those who don't. With that being said, AI is not new to us here at Google. Over the last 20 years, we've incorporated AI features into Google Workspace apps, such as AI-powered security controls and Gmail that block more than 99.9% of spam and phishing messages from ever reaching users' inboxes, AI file suggestions in Drive based on who and what you work with most frequently, etc. Now, as we enter this new AI era, our commitment to building AI features with the utmost care and thoughtful experimentation remains core to our philosophy, as it always has been over these last 20 years. And with that, I'd like to go ahead and introduce you to Gemini for Workspace. So Gemini for Workspace is a suite of AI-powered tools that helps you get more done in Workspace. This technology is not meant to replace jobs by any means. Instead, really represents the ability for everyone in the organization to have an embedded assistant that can help them exponentially increase their productivity, doing more with less time, recapturing work-life balance, and up-leveling their work. Currently, Gemini consists of these 4 main feature sets and one that I'll get into in a little bit. But starting on the left-hand side, we're helping you write and refine content in Gmail and Google Docs. Next, we have creating original images from text right within Google Slides. Third is helping you organize and turning ideas into custom templates in Google Sheets. And then last is helping you to connect and foster more meaningful connections in Google Meet. And these are comprised of a lot more features that Brian will be getting into a little bit later. Now, lastly, as I mentioned, we do have one more piece of that Gemini for Google Workspace features, and that is our standalone AI chatbot called Gemini, or also known as gemini.google.com. Now, this originally used to be called Bard, but we rebranded it earlier this year to Gemini, and also came out with a business version of it that really protects the data protection side of it. So that means it's not going to be collecting any data, and it's not going to be using any of customer data to train models at all. And so that's the version that's included with Gemini for Workspace. Now, with that being said, more than 1 million people are using Gemini for Workspace features like Help Me Write to enhance their productivity and creativity. Here I have a quote from one of our enterprise customers, Trimble, on how Gemini has helped enhance their productivity. And in my experience as a Workspace customer engineer, the number one feedback I get from customers after they've implemented Gemini is how easy it was to see the value of the tool right away after just using the Help Me Write feature in Gmail to respond back to emails. When replying back to emails using Gemini right within that email thread, it's able to pull further context from previous emails to help cut down on the response time. So that way you don't have to give it as much context as you normally would. It's able to pull all of those extra little details and create a well-crafted email for you, so you can go ahead and send it out in a matter of seconds. Now, this is just one example of how businesses have been using Gemini to help enhance their productivity. So with that said, now that we have an understanding of Gemini for Workspace, I want to take a moment to present on some of the new Gemini features that Google recently announced at our Google Next conference a few weeks ago. And the first one is Google Vids, which is our new AI-powered video creation tool that's going to be a part of our Workspace suite, and also is going to be included in Gemini for Workspace SKUs. And what makes Vids so unique from other traditional video tools is that it's been designed to make the video creation process simple and intuitive by using the power of AI. Instead of starting from scratch with a blank page, with Vids, you'll be able to start with the Help Me Create feature. So for example, let's say you're a marketing manager for an apparel company working on a new line of footwear. You can type in a prompt in Vids and say, I want to create a product pitch for our new line of women's running shoes for prospective retail partners using this doc with product specs as context. From there, Vids is going to be able to generate a storyboard for you to jumpstart your creation process, and then you'll be able to edit the outline that Vids generates for you, as well as choose a video style. And then lastly, Vids is going to be able to do the rest. The app will create the first draft of your video, complete with suggestions of scenes full of rich media content like stock videos, images, and background music. And Vids will be releasing later this year. I'm really, really excited for this feature. Next, we also released or announced 2 new Gemini for Workspace SKUs, and these are already released. First one is our AI security SKU, and this is going to give admins AI-powered capabilities to raise their security posture by automating their data protection, and I'll get into more on that in a little bit. And then the second SKU is our AI meetings and messaging SKU, and this gives users access to our AI-powered features in Google Meet, like translate captions, and then also in the future, AI-powered summaries in Google Chat for richer meetings and more effective collaboration. And then moving on to that AI data classification piece. So this was a feature that was in beta for the beginning of this year. And at Next, we released that we were fully releasing it in GA. And this is the feature that's going to be included with your AI security SKU, as well as your Gemini Enterprise SKU. So what the AI classification feature does is it uses artificial intelligence to automatically label your organization's sensitive content. And how it works is once an admin enables it, it's first going to go through an initial training period of about 2 weeks on average, during which the AI model learns your organization's criteria for sensitive content. And AI classification can then automatically put labels on both new and existing files in Drive once it learns and goes through that training period. And in this video, we're seeing an example of AI classification after the training period, where the feature automatically applied a file sensitivity label and marked it as top secret. This is just going to save a lot of time on the admin side, as well as making you don't have to make sure that your users are correctly labeling your documents anymore.
Awesome. Thanks, Grace. And I'm just going to go ahead and switch it over to my screen at this point, and I'll kind of showcase some of these different features that we mentioned to give you guys a summary of all the functionality in Gemini for Workspace. Okay, so we're going to start by taking a look at the Gemini chat. So this is, as Grace mentioned, kind of the core functionality of Gemini. And many of you who have used Bard in the past, you'll be familiar with this type of format. This Gemini for Workspace leverages the kind of the best available model for Gemini right now. It's actually a better, more premium version of the Gemini that's available for consumers. And so what I'm going to do is just kind of show you a few demo prompts that we can ask and request the AI to assist with. The way that you want to look at this in your day-to-day is kind of your sort of helper, right? An AI collaborator. So we're going to start with just an example. I'm going to use that. I actually got this question from one of our customers just the other day. And we were doing a Gemini demo, and he asked me, hey, I have an email I have to write later today because we have a maintenance window this weekend, and our VPN is going to be unavailable for employees. So can Gemini create an email for me? So just to save time, I'm going to kind of cut and paste this in. But you can see what I plugged in was, write an email to employees informing them that there'll be network maintenance. The VPN will be unavailable during this time. So I haven't provided a ton of contextual information, but let's see what Gemini comes up with. And one thing is, when you're prompting the AI, you'll want to provide as much contextual information as possible. So the more specific you are, the better output you're going to get. But you can actually see that, I didn't really give it a lot to go on, but it actually came up with a pretty good example of a prompt. And so we can see here, it does have placeholders for times and dates because I didn't provide that, but it's a fairly well formatted email, right? So I could further refine this prompt, and I could add in dates and times if I'd like. You can go back and edit the prompt later. But again, the way to think about using this tool is that it reduces that ideation time when you're creating new content. So, if you were to kind of sit there and try to write this email on yourself, you'd probably go get a coffee, stare at your screen for a couple minutes thinking about how you wanted to phrase it and what sections and things like that you wanted to divide the email up into. Whereas here, in just a few moments, we have a first draft that we can then iterate upon. So in this particular example, I would say that it probably saved you at least a few minutes writing this particular email. Now, another example of what you can use the Gemini chat for is asking questions about spreadsheet functions, or also like some coding if you're doing Google Apps script work, that kind of stuff. So I have another sample prompt here that we'll enter, and I'll just ask it, help me write a function for Google Sheets where I can import data from another sheet and then perform a VLOOKUP. So, I'm pretty familiar with how to do both of these functions separately. It's a little messy to do, your import onto a separate tab and then VLOOKUP against that. So, how can I do it all in the same cell and make it nice and clean looking on my spreadsheet? So you can see here, there's an example of the syntax I would need to use and the order, right? So it's important to get kind of the order of operations correct on these types of functions. And there's also a detailed explanation of each portion and then an actual example that it created that I can open in Google Sheets and then practice with if I'd like. So definitely a cool feature that you can leverage in Gemini. Oh, actually, one other thing I just remembered I forgot to mention regarding the email. There is a connection here to your Gmail and Google Docs. So if you want to export this to a draft in your Gmail, you can do that pretty easily. So just regarding that email portion. Okay, the last example we're going to look at here in the Gemini chat app is actually something that I pulled directly from that prompt guide that Grace mentioned. So kind of shameless pitch for that guide. This is a little bit more of an involved prompt, but I'll kind of break it down, right? So we're going to ask the AI to help us generate a logo for our company. And
They're saying, Megan asked if you could pause. Somebody in
Sure.
the chat said that they can't see the screen.
Okay.
Could you increase the scale?
Oh, the scale of
Yeah.
like this. Okay. Hopefully that's a little bit better for everybody. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Let me know. Thanks for letting us know in the chat. Let me know if there's any other technical difficulties, and we'll try to troubleshoot that. So anyway, in this particular example, what we're going to ask the AI to do is generate a logo for our hypothetical company. And this company is a coffee shop that's also a video game cafe. So we're basically going to provide that context to the AI. We're going to ask it to include sort of both. Sorry.
She said to pause again.
Okay. Thanks, Kelsey.
Mm-hmm.
And just one moment, everyone, while we sort this out.
Okay.
We're good?
We should be.
Okay.
I got the go-ahead.
Cool. Green light. All right. So anyways, we're going to provide some additional context here to the AI. So we want the logo to include aspects of both, portions of our company, right? So it has to have a coffee motif and a video gaming motif. And we're going to actually tell it who our target audience is. So again, this is something that when you're doing any kind of prompt, whether it's an email or asking it to generate an image or something, it's useful information for the AI to have. And then we're also going to ask it to come up with a couple different examples for us to use. So kind of like a more modern logo, a retro logo, and a minimalist logo. So given that, we're going to enter this prompt. And you'll notice when it's generating images, it does take a little bit longer than just a text response. But you can see there's our modern option, our retro option, and our minimalist option. So all pretty good. We could ask it to generate more if we wanted to, but just a couple examples of things that you can engage the Gemini chatbot for. All right, so we're going to move on to Gmail, and I'm going to just kind of proactively increase my screen size here. And there is a Gemini for Workspace functionality that's built directly into Gmail. And you'll see this as kind of a little widget that appears when you're composing a message. One thing to point out, and I don't have my phone screen being shared at this moment, but this is also available in the mobile version of Gmail. So it's super helpful if you're trying to write or respond to an email from your mobile device. Normally when you're responding from your mobile, you're sort of writing an abridged email. But with the help of the AI, you can write kind of a more complete and better formatted message than you would probably normally be willing to enter via the keyboard on your phone. Okay, so instead of doing a new email in this case, I'm actually going to just kind of show how we can use this when we're replying. So I'm just going to hit reply to a normal message here in Gmail. This is just kind of a random alert message that I got via the admin console in Google Workspace. But let's say actually that I'm going to forward this to somebody. So you know what, let me discard that and we'll go to forward. And I'm going to forward it to my colleague Patrick. And I'm just going to ask the AI to, help me write this by, summarizing this message. Summarize this email and explain why it was triggered. So this was actually a rule, like a DLP rule. And you can see, let's say I had to forward this to my boss. You can see it actually wrote out this reply for me and explained why this particular email was generated and what the alert was all about. So just like an example of how you could use this in your Gmail. Now, moving on to Google Docs, which again, apologies here, I did not anticipate the scale of this, so I'm going to zoom in a little. So in Google Docs, we also have a help me write functionality, and this can be used for a number of different things. One of my favorites is summarizing content that's in your document. So this could be it could be notes that you took during a meeting. It could be just a really lengthy article on something, or maybe a scope of work, or whatever the case may be. You can ask the AI to summarize it, or just create a bulleted list. So in this case, we'll just ask it to bulletize this. And you can see it sort of condensed this down into a list of bullet points. And so if we're happy with that, I can just hit insert, and it will add that into my file. The other feature of Gemini that's available in Google Docs is an advanced proofreading function, and you can access that in the upper right corner by clicking on this proofread button. And this goes above and beyond just sort of a standard spell check. It's going to identify things like run-on sentences, repetitive wording, your voice, whether it's an active or passive voice. So it will actually provide some pretty insightful grammatical help when you're writing things. So this is great because in normal circumstances you might send your first draft to another human to review and try to catch these things, but using the help of the AI, you can get it to more like a let's say a 95% state before you actually send it to another person for review and markup. We also, of course, can just ask the AI to generate net new content for us in this document. So again, by clicking on this little pencil button, I can just put sort of an open-ended prompt in here. This is very similar to what the Gemini chat agent can do and the functionality in Gmail. So I'm not going to show an exact example of this just for the sake of time. But one thing that I will mention is that when you are making requests to the AI within a Google Doc, it will use any existing content in the Google Doc as contextual information. So oftentimes it's better to start with an existing file if you want to have it generate something about that file, right? So maybe we have a large document that details somebody that we want to hire, right? All of the qualifications, the salary range, things like that. Within that document, we could then go down to the bottom and ask the AI to generate, a job rec for that position, and it'll use that contextual information from the doc. So just some tips if you're going to actually go and do some testing on your own with Gemini. Okay, so next we're going to take a look at Google Sheets. And there are two pieces of functionality right now that are available in Google Sheets. The first one is called Help Me Organize. And this can be used to create things like project plans, user lists, issue trackers, anything that's sort of a table, like a table format that you might want to have in your sheet. So in this case, I'm just going to ask it to create a project plan. So this is a pretty broad, non-specific request. And obviously the AI will take, some liberties here with what it thinks I want in a project plan. And again, similar to generating images, you'll notice with Sheets, it takes it just a few seconds more usually. So we can see that what the AI created, what Gemini created is, pretty standard, right? So we have tasks, we have milestones, status, priority. It's actually using these kind of chips within Google Sheets, which is nice. So you already have that filled in. We have due dates, notes, right? So pretty standard, right? Not bad. You could work with that. We can be a lot more specific. So I'm just going to paste in more specifics that I want the AI to take into account, right? So I want specific columns for a start and an end date. I want column A to be a work breakdown structure. I want an assigned to column, a notes column, and I want column B to be tasks. So we'll have it try again and see what it comes up with. So you can see that it actually knew what WBS meant. Sometimes it's not great to use jargon too much when you're entering prompts in the AI, but in this case, it knows what that is. So we have our work breakdown structure. We have tasks in column B, as I requested. And then we have start date, end date, assigned to, and we have notes, right? So pretty much everything I asked it to do, it did. And if I'm happy with this, which I am, I'll just hit, basically insert. And it'll add that into my sheet, and then I can go from there. Now, the other functionality that's available in Sheets is called Enhanced Smart Fill. And this expands on the standard Smart Fill feature, which if you're not familiar with Smart Fill, basically if you're doing something repetitive in a sheet, it'll kind of chime in and say, hey, we can help you. Let's just, we'll do the same formula for every other row in this sheet. So the Enhanced Smart Fill will do more generative AI tasks, like if you have, let's say in one column you have feedback from a survey, and the other column you're trying to figure out the people's sentiment who responded. As you go through and you put positive, negative, neutral, after you do that a few times, the AI will chime in and a smart fill suggestion will come up with a little Gemini sparkle, and it'll say, hey, it looks like you're trying to do a sentiment analysis. We can populate the rest of those rows. So it's kind of cool. It'll do that. It's pretty hard to demo that. I've tried to come up with good examples, and after once or twice, it kind of tends to not give you the same recommendation. So I don't have a specific example, but it's pretty cool. It appears dynamically. One other thing I just want to call out here, this badged label, this Google Drive label, is confidential. This was actually applied due to that AI data classification feature that Grace mentioned earlier. So in our little sandbox domain that we have set up here, I have the AI classification turned on. So when users create or upload new files, this is what they would see applied. Okay, moving on to our next Google Workspace application, we'll take a look at Google Slides. And in Slides, right now, what the functionality of Gemini can do is help you create images. So you can ask Gemini to make an image for you to use in your deck. So let's just say a cup of coffee sitting on a table, right? And there are different styles that you can specify. So there's, like a realistic style. There's more like a watercolor style, right? So you'll see those options. But you can see here, it gave 4 examples of images. So I'll just choose one of them. And you can insert this into the presentation and use this. One thing that's great about these images is these are completely unique. So they're totally bespoke. You're never going to see the same image generated twice. And what that means for you is that you have basically free use of these images. So for things like clip art, where normally you'd have to be concerned about, well, who owns this image? Am I going to have to pay $5,000 just to put the image in my deck if it's external, customer facing? You don't have to worry about that because you're the one that drafted the prompt to have this image created, so it's yours. No different than if you had made this from scratch in Google Drawings or something like that. So super cool. I actually use this pretty often now, just for nice little kind of filler images on my slides. And obviously, the more specific you are, the more specific of a result you'll get with the image. So, if you want the desk to be metal instead of wood, and you want like beige colored walls in the room, you can be very specific. Okay, so the last app that we'll look at here, and again, let me just kind of zoom this in a little bit. It's Google Meet. And just to kind of demonstrate some of these features, I'm going to start a new meeting. Obviously, I'm going to be the only participant in here, so it's not the best example. but I just kind of want to showcase where a few of these features are located. So the first one here is Take Notes for Me. Now this is currently an alpha feature, but if you use Gemini or you sign up for a Gemini trial, you are able to enable the early access features in the admin console. So we can turn on this notes functionality, ask it to start taking notes. Now the way this works is after a few minutes, and it does take it a few minutes to kind of gather enough context before it starts showing you notes, you'll start to see the kind of highlights populated into this window here. It also generates a Google Doc automatically, and it uses the meeting notes format. Now obviously I started an instant meeting, but if this were a calendar event, you'd see the meeting name here. You will not see the notes appear in real time on this document, although you can watch it in real time. Again, after a few minutes, you'll start to see them appear here. After the meeting is over, Gemini will take all of the notes that it gathered during the meeting and just kind of plop them into this recap document for you. So pretty cool functionality. Again, it's currently in alpha, so it should only get better with time. If you want to try it out, again, you can turn that on if you're a Gemini customer already. Now, the other AI-driven things that you'll notice in in Google Meet are visual effects. So using the same kind of technology that we use to generate the slide images in Google Slides, you can generate custom backgrounds for yourself in Google Meet. And we also have some AI-powered video filters. So lighting adjustment, studio look, touch up. It's basically like an AI filter to enhance the sharpness and quality and lighting of your video. Now, the other feature that, that you'll notice in here, it's a little less obvious, I guess. I'm going to actually unmute myself, so hopefully this will start to work. But we can turn on captions in Google Meet, and it'll actually do translated captions, which is super cool. So if the language of the meeting is in English, we then turn on translated captions and tell it, what language we want to translate this into. So we can choose, Spanish. And you'll see it started in Chinese and then it moved over into Spanish. But this is super helpful if you're attending a meeting where the language being spoken is not something that you're fluent in, which often comes up for me since we deal with international customers. This is great. You can turn this on for yourself, and you can hopefully follow what's going on in the meeting. So this is an AI-powered feature. Okay, so with that, we're going to switch back over to the slides, and I do have a few more things to cover just to sort of wrap things up. Starting with how you can secure your data, or how Gemini secures your data for you when you're using these tools. So there is a lot going on, a lot to unpack on this slide. I'm definitely not going to cover everything here. These slides will be available to download after the presentation if you're really interested. But effectively, Gemini treats your data very carefully. So when you enter a prompt into Gemini, that prompt is encrypted in transit to the AI model. The response that the model generates is also encrypted in transit back to you. And so basically the output, where the output of your prompt lives, is always going to be within your Google Workspace environment. Just to kind of sum things up a little better here, Gemini does not access information that you as a user don't have access to. So in other words, if I'm, user A and I enter a prompt and I'm asking about, my company's financial information, it's not going to go crawl the drive of user B and give me information that I shouldn't normally be privy to. The prompts and the responses are not used by Google in any way to train or improve the Gemini model. Google does not store your prompts or summaries of those prompts, and it doesn't share your information with anyone else in the world, right? So you don't have to worry if you're entering information into Gemini, is this going to appear in some random person's prompt somewhere else in the world. So this is specific to Gemini for Google Workspace. The Workspace version of Gemini has basically enterprise level terms of service for how your data is handled. Okay, so now I just want to talk about pricing and some of the services that Wursta can provide. So just to kind of summarize the pricing a little bit, I know Grace touched on a couple of these things. There are currently 4 subscription types available for Gemini for Workspace. The first one is Enterprise, which just kind of includes everything, right? So it's like your smorgasbord option. Everything that we talked about today is included in that Enterprise license. To take a step down from that, there's a business license, which does not include the some of the Google Meet functionality, like the translation or the note taking. And it does not include the AI data classification, but it includes everything else, right? So access to the Gemini chat, all the little tools that we showed in Google Docs and Sheets, all that's in there. There is a usage limit in that case, so it's 1,000 prompts a month, but that's quite a lot. If people are actually using it for more than 1,000 prompts a month, I would say that it's definitely worth the spend to go up to Enterprise. Then we have 2 very specialized SKUs, and this is kind of what Grace mentioned. These were just launched at Google Next a few weeks ago. So there is specifically a meetings and messaging SKU that's available. This covers the meetings features and some of the upcoming Google Chat functionality. There's also a specific SKU for the AI security. So I think a good use case for that would be maybe you don't want to license everybody in your company for the enterprise or business Gemini, but you do want to make it so that any time any user adds something to Google Drive, it's covered by that data classification. So that's where that $10 SKU comes in. And these are the prices for a 1-year contract, but these are just the suggested retail price, does not include any promotions or discounts or anything like that. Okay, so how can Wursta help with this? So if you are an organization and you're interested in using Gemini, we have sort of basically a 3-step process that we can help you with. The first one would be a discovery lab. So this is sort of like a very low to no commitment thing where you just take a half a day for up to 25 employees, and we can give them access to kind of a sandbox environment for Gemini, and they can practice prompting, try to figure out what kind of use cases might exist in your organization for Gemini, and gather some feedback. If you do go with a sort of a trial, which Google will offer a 30-day trial period, we have 2 different sort of flavors of that. We have what we call our Express pilot, which myself or another Wursta employee will do a training for your employees to make sure that they know how to get the most out of the tools. We'll then also provide a whole bunch of templates for you for communications, gathering feedback, and all that good stuff. So again, that's structured around a 30-day trial period. If you're a little bit larger of an organization or you want a little bit of a higher touch experience, we have what we call our guided evaluation. So this is kind of a same general concept as the Express, but there's just more interaction with Wursta resources here. We're a little bit more engaged with your users. We can set up a Google chat room, like a chat space, or another mechanism similar where we engage with your trial users, help answer questions, provide feedback. We'll do weekly checkpoints. We'll do office hours and lots of other sort of touch points with your users. And then if you do decide to roll out Gemini into your production environment, we have a deployment program also where we will help you craft the communications around launching Gemini, provide training for your users. If you're interested in the data classification, we can help you implement that, as well as reviewing all the other admin console settings. So there's a lot that Wursta can bring to the table as your partner to help implement these tools. And then the last thing here, pretty much everything we talked about today was Gemini for Google Workspace, but there are a lot of other AI tools that Google has. So if you were watching this presentation and thinking, oh, okay, well, can I customize this in any way? Well, with the Gemini for Google Workspace, there's not really a way for you to kind of train it on your own corpus of data, other than what's in, the documents or Google Drive that you're, referring to. But there are a lot of different tools that can be used in Vertex, which is part of Google Cloud Platform. So if you're interested in let's say, building a custom chat appliance that's AI powered and is trained on your own internal knowledge base, that's something that Wursta can help with. Any kind of content generation, predictive AI, those sorts of things in Google Cloud Platform. We have a great development team here. So while we didn't really touch on a lot of the custom options during this presentation, if you are interested in any of that, please reach out to us. We can help do a demo or proof of concept for you for any of these types of use cases. So with that, we're going to move into kind of Q&A. And I'm actually going to sort of kick it over to Kelsey, and she'll let me know if there were any questions from the audience that have come through so far.
If you would like to reach out and you have any more questions before sending this over, here's all of our information. We'll leave that up throughout the Q&A. And again, this entire recording with all the slides will be set out within 24 hours. So let's get started. Can you clarify the 100 prompts per month? Is that per user?
The 1,000 prompts per month? Yes. Yeah, it's per user.
Okay.
Per user, not pooled. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And somebody, let's see. And you said there is a trial available, and how long is that?
Typically it's 30 days. On request, sometimes we can extend that, but by default, you can always get a 30-day trial period for Gemini.
Okay, cool.
And that, by the way, I'm just going to kind of proactively anticipate a follow-on question to that. You can apply those licenses to whichever users you choose. So if you only want to apply the licenses to a specific subset of users or one specific organizational unit, you can do that. And that's true during both the trial and also with production licenses.
Awesome. And I lost it. Oh, someone brought up that the pricing maybe is different.
So the pricing is a little higher, depending on what you're looking at. The pricing is higher. It's a few dollars higher for each of those SKUs if you go on a flex plan, so month to month. So that may be what you are seeing. If you're seeing I think it's like $24 for the business and $34 or $36 for the enterprise if you're month to month. So you save a little bit automatically by doing a year. And then there's almost always other promos and things like that you're
pretty similar. Yeah, similar to their regular.
Yeah. So your Google, your Wursta sales rep or your Wursta account manager can help get you the best pricing.
That's where I come in.
Yeah. Talk to Kelsey.
Are there any more? Maybe not. I mean, I think you were just very thorough.
Yeah. So, and I'll anticipate another question that I get quite frequently. So with the SKUs, you can mix and match those however you want.
Oh, that's a very good point.
So if you have a few power users that you want to give them the enterprise license, you can do that. You can give everybody else the business license, or, maybe let's say you're, healthcare and you've got 20% of your users are kind of like office style workers and the rest are providers, and you're like, our frontline providers, they're not really going to be prompting the AI, but we do want that data classification. So if they upload a file, because of HIPAA and everything, it's covered by those the data classification. So you could mix and match the business or the enterprise with the data classification for the rest of your organization too.
Perfect. Okay, I mean, I think that might be it. One thing I do want to let you guys know, if it was blurry at all in the beginning, I think we were going through or just trying to fix it. It won't be in the recording, just FYI. Well, I think that might be it. I want to thank everybody again so much for joining us today. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Grace. This was super insightful and fun.
Thank you all for being here.